Now I have a trading partner here who is going to send a transaction to me. Now let's query. Today we are going to take a look at a new feature in the B2B capability called the resubmit of B2B transactions. Before we look at the feature, we will understand the nuances of the resubmit capability. So there are two flavors in the resubmit functionality. One is called the redeliver, which allows us to deliver the payloads back to the destination endpoints. And the second is called reprocess, which will allow us to reprocess the payload through the integrations right from the beginning of its acceptance within the platform. So with that, let's first look at reprocess. So in order to simulate a such scenario, what we have done is we have a trading partner here for whom we have disabled this integration agreement. What will happen is basically now it cannot be processed and the transaction will fail, and we'll take a look how we can use reprocess in this scenario. Other situations where reprocess could be useful is if there are some configuration at the transport level which causes the payload processing to fail. Things like wrong certificates or wrong AS2 identifiers being configured. So in such scenarios also, we can use reprocess. So what I'm going to do now is send a transaction over from Postman here. So this was successful. We'll go into our observability, and in the wire messages, we can see there is a data error. So when I look into this, the message logs, it says that the TP agreement was not found, right? So in this situation, what we can do is go back to our trading partner, deploy this. And now since this is a configuration error on our side, we do not need to go back to our trading partner and request them to send this document back again. So we come back to our wire message and we have this button for resubmit. When we click on this, it says this will process and deliver the message again. So we click resubmit. This was resubmitted, and there we go. So here we have the latest entry, which shows it was successful, and the actual transaction which was resubmitted. You can see there's a label against it which says resubmitted. When we go into the details under correlations, we can see that there was one resubmitted message. When we click on this, it filters to the newly resubmitted message. And under correlation, again, you can go back to the original message, which was resubmitted. So this again is resubmit of an incoming document, and the same thing applies for outbound as well. For outbound, the way the resubmit would be done is through the business messages section. So let's now look at the redeliver capability. To simulate this scenario, what I'm going to do here is I have a FTP downstream application which I'm going to stop. Now I have a trading partner here who is going to send a transaction to me. Now let's go to our B2B tracking. And here we see new transactions that have come in. And under business message, we notice that there's a backend integration failure. This is mainly because we are unable to write into the server that is consuming this data. So what we do now is go into this and start the server. Now we can go back to our observability, and this particular business message can be now re-delivered to the backend endpoint. And you can see when I click on this, it says this will deliver the message again. So resubmit this, and this was successful. So similar to what we saw for reprocess, you can see there's a resubmit button here, and then under correlations, you can see this was resubmitted, and then it filters to the resubmitted message, and this was successfully transmitted downstream. Now, similar to this, what we mentioned was that, whatever needs to be sent out. So in this case, we see that there is a 997 which was sent back to the trading partner. We can resubmit this. And when I click this, it says this will deliver this message again. And we can see that this was resubmitted, and it was successful, the resubmitted message. We can now go back to the original message as well. So in summary, basically, we have a resubmit capability now, which has two distinct features, which is the reprocess and redeliver. Reprocess for inbound messages works from the wire message tab. Reprocess for outbound messages works from the business messages tab. Redeliver for inbound messages works from the business message tab. And redeliver for outbound messages works from the wire message tab. This is very intuitively context driven, and hope this feature can help you all in your day-to-day activities. That's it for now. Today we're going to take a look at a new feature that has been added in OIC B2B, which is the support for fixed length document types. Before we look at the feature, let's understand what a fixed length file is. So here I have a sample fixed length file, which is a plain text file where each individual line is a record, and each field within those lines are identified depending on the position and the length of that particular field, which is again defined and agreed upon between the trading partner and the organization. We also see initial three characters which are unique, um, which allows us to identify not only the document but also each individual records within that fixed length file. So here is OIC B2B, and in that, under schemas, we now have a new option to create a fixed length document. So here in scan for characters, we will need to provide the number of characters to search from the sample document in order to identify the different names of the segment. So I'm going to provide number 3 because in our sample file, you can see the initial 3 characters represent the segments of the file. Now I'm going to bring in the sample input file and click create. Once I click create, I'm now brought into the schema editor page. As you can see, there are a bunch of records or segments that have already been created. This was done because we provided the initial scan characters, and you can see that it has identified those and created the segments for us. Now, of course, there are no elements within each of these, and we will need to start creating those. So now, in order to create the fields, we can go ahead and manually add them, Or we have a new feature called as add child elements, which allows us to add elements in bulk. So all we need to do is provide a comma separated list of the each element's lengths. So for instance, if we have five elements to define, then we provide the length for each of them. So the first element is 2, second is 10, the third is 6, and the last one is 35. And we click add. Now you can see that all of them have been created. We can now further edit each of these by clicking into this and change the properties like type or length or whatever that is needed. So similarly, we will add elements for rest of the records as well. For now, I'm not going to do that. I already have a schema that is created. We'll just quickly take a look at that. So here you can see all the different segments with each of the segments having their elements that has been created. And this is how you create the schema for a fixed length file. Once the schema has been created, we now go into documents. We'll show what we have configured for our existing document here. So here in this document, you can see we have used the schema that was created along with a couple of business identifiers from that schema during runtime. To process the fixed length records, we need to provide the identification value. Here we are using BGM, which is the first 3 characters in the incoming payload. So that's what is being specified. And then we have to set the identification start position, which is 1, and the end position, which is 3. And now this will be used during runtime. This is how you set up the schemas documents. Now we will go into trading partners and we'll see how that will be set up. There's not much difference there. So we will go into transports and agreements. Here you can see there's an AS2 transport that's configured and an inbound agreement which uses fixed length file that was created just now. And this will be processed with our backend integration called inbound backend fixed length. Now let's quickly look at the execution of. Let's now look at the demo. So here we have a postman request which will trigger the inbound agreement which we just configured. And here is the flat file payload that we'll be sending. So I'm going to click send. So the request has been accepted. Now let's look at what happened on our instance. Let's now go into observability and B2B tracking. Here you can see we have received an AS2 communication from our trading partner Dell demo. And under payload, we can see the flat file that we just sent. If we go into our business messages, you can see that a fixed length order has been successfully transformed. And these are the business identifiers that were surfaced. We also have a failed transaction, and this has failed certain validations which were executed on the schema. So here we have number of element level validations that were executed, which were defined as part of the schema, and these have failed that. So this is how you would set up your fixed length schemas, documents, and use them as part of your trading partner onboarding.
Hi, as part of this 10-minute overview, we will cover the OCI process automation service. This service enables customers to end-to-end automate their business processes that could span multiple applications, that could involve human tasks that they're looking to digitize, as well as look at various workflows in the company that they're looking to digitally transform. So, as part of the product overview today, apart from the functional capabilities, we will walk through 2 primary user experiences targeting two key personas in our product. The first one is a tooling UI, which we call the designer, which enables and provides a no-code approach for users to be able to create business process applications as part of our product. They would be able to use various components such as our processes, dynamic processes, web forms, connectors, to be able to put together a business process as that is required in the company. The second user experience that we will be walking through is for the end user. We target two key types of personas here. One is an administrative and operational persona where users are looking to manage the system as well as manage the various transactions that are going through the system. The second user here is the business user, where based on notifications that are generated from our product, users can come in and look at various tasks that have been assigned to them, look at the various details such as the forms that are attached to a task, and then take key actions such as reviewing details, approving things, and such. With that said, let's go into the product demonstration. So this is our product designer. As you can see, there are a number of applications that are already available in here. And as part of the demonstration today, we will look at the rental car application, which covers a number of key components of the product. At the design level, you can see that you have the ability for the lifecycle management of the various process applications that are created. You have the ability to create new. You have the ability to import from various lower environments, as well as manage lifecycles and versions of the product within here. So let's go into the rental car application. As part of the core process application, there are a number of key components that we provide as part of the product. The first one is the process. From a process perspective, we offer the ability for users to create structured processes as well as dynamic processes. And this could be based on the design experience as well as the use case that the customer has. The customer would be able to select the process type that they would want. As part of this demo, we will walk through each of the process types. We offer a web user or web form composition tool that enables customers to create forms and attach them to various tasks. This enables users to initiate tasks through a completion of a form, or they can have or see the details as part of a task that's been created in forms so that users can see the details and take decisions such as, do I want to request more information? Do I want to go ahead and approve it? We offer business rules in the context of decisions. The users have the ability to automate and reuse a lot of the decisions, such as decision tables and rules that they have in their company as part of the decisions component. For connectivity, we offer REST-based integrations as well as interface through Oracle integration, where you would be able to integrate with various SaaS applications, various technical endpoints. In this case, we have REST-based integrations for a couple of endpoints, and we will see that as part of the demonstration. We also offer the ability for users to create business types, and everything in process is managed and governed through a role-based access control system. So users have the ability to create various roles and be able to assign users into various roles. And based on that, you would be able to assign tasks to a set of users, a set of groups, a set of teams, etc. With that said, let's look at the functional use case that we would be looking at as part of this demonstration. So this is a overall rental car process that we have created, and it has three very basic stages. The first stage is the booking stage, where once the customer or the end user has initiated the booking request, you would be able to go in and verify the booking and approve the reservation that the customer has requested. The pickup stage is where the customer desk employees or the users who are helping the customer pick up the car at the rental car office. And there are various milestones that are here where the car is ready for the customer. The car is ready for for the pickup process being completed. The car being transferred to a different rental car location if the drop-off point is different. All of these are captured within the process. And then finally, we have the return stage, where the user would be able to handle the return of the car when the customer is at the drop-off location. And last but not least, we have global activities. And these global activities are um, tasks that are available for the end user at any given point of time. So, for example, during the life cycle of a rental agreement, if I want to be able to report an incident or be able to update my booking to extend my reservation, all of these are activities that are available to the user. So you would be able to manage that. As far as the process is concerned, we offer a number of key capabilities within the product. You would be able to design and manage human tasks. In this case, we have a verified booking process, which is a human task. This can be assigned to a user or a group of users or a team. You can attach a UI to it in the context of a web form or external UIs if needed. You have the ability to bind process data to it, be able to select priorities, define due dates. All of those details could be defined in the context of a task. A task has other capabilities such as conditional activation terminations. You would also be able to set up notifications in the context of a task. All these are constructs that are available, which enables customers to minimize manual tasks in their company and be able to automate them. As part of our product, we also offer the ability for you to integrate with various systems. In this case, we have a couple of REST endpoints that are getting connecting to machine learning systems to get predict car mileage usage, predict car acceptance confidence levels. These are as well as get zip codes, etc. So we have REST endpoints that are being used for this. Uh, as far as the product is concerned, we offer structured processes as well in the product that enables users to define more transition-driven approaches for, or traditional or transition-driven approaches for defining processes. This is a structured process that enables the transfer of a car from one rental car office to the other. You can see here that we provide a number of different capabilities, including the task, which the user would be able to review and approve for managing the return of a car, for the transfer of a car, as well as various elements. In the product, we offer a number of different elements as part of the product that are managed here. You would be able to create human tasks. You'd be able to create system tasks. You'd be able to create events that are API driven or event driven. You would be able to create form based initiations. You would be able to create gateways to manage your decisions and how you want to be able to execute on various transition points, as well as drag and drop in connectors that are part of the product. Lastly, let's quickly look at the forms element as well before we go into the end user UI. So the rental car form is the primary user experience that we will look at. As you can see, the web forms enables you to create various end user experiences as well as presentations. We provide a rich variety of capabilities in the product for users and designers to be able to create various conditional and event-driven approaches to creating these UIs. All of the UIs and end user facing components that we create here are embeddable in nature. That enables customers to be able to embed these experiences, tasks, as well as end user experiences in general to other web applications as well as SaaS applications. With that, let's move to the end user facing part of it. So here, this is the rental car application that we just saw. So I'm going to be acting as the customer who's going to be initiating the rental car booking process here. So I'm going to go ahead and say Scott Tiger is my name. Let's say that I'm with the date picker. I'm saying that the pickup date would be next week and the drop off date would be end of the week. I'm picking up the car near my home in California. And you can see that we are using a connector-based call to be able to get the location information from REST-based endpoints, and we automatically populate that in the forms. As a user, I also can be very specific if I want. So I'm going to say that I would like a Mazda as part of the booking. I'm anticipating my luggage size is going to be large, ideally 2 doors, and I'm anticipating 2 people in the car at any given point. So with this, we have now submitted the web form as a customer, and my reservation is is ready for review and pending in the booking stage. This is the operational experience as far as the administrator is concerned. So now that I have initiated my process to book a car, you can now see that my booking stage is in progress. I can see the other stages are not started as they are event driven and they will only kick off once my initial stage is completed. I have other activities such as the ability to update my booking, report incidents that are enabled and available, and the primary task within the booking stage, which is verify booking, is now available and active. So let's play the role of the reservation office, and let's review the request that Scott has created for me. As part of the review, I can see all the details that have been created by the customer. You can see as an end user, I can review all the information that have been provided in the form. I can see add any comments. I can say approved. I can add documents such as a map. I can look at the rest of the history as far as the details are concerned, and I can go ahead and submit this. That enables the process to progress to the next stage. So now my verify booking stage is complete, and the process is well on its way to the next stage. So as you can see now, my booking stage is complete, and my pickup stage is in progress at this point. The customer is now ready to will get a notification to let them know that the reservation has been confirmed, and they're ready to pick up their car on their pickup date. And as you can see from an operational perspective, I can see all the details of various tasks that have been completed, that have been running, all the failed transactions that are available. I can, if I need to take actions like retries, I would be able to manage that from here. I can see the entire audit, comments, documents, as well as data from an operational and administrative perspective. This is a quick overview of the process automation tool. To summarize, we looked at a rental car process that was defined or designed in the process tooling that had multiple stages. We went through the various aspects of the product, of how it was designed, as well as a couple of stages of the runtime or the end user experience to simulate how a user would interact with the process. Thank you very much.
Welcome now to Module 9, OIC Administrator Tasks. The scope of these lessons involve tasks that must be done by someone assigned to the OIC Service Administrator role, or in some cases, they must have OCI identity and access permissions to manage the OIC instance itself. This includes provisioning, assigning access roles to other OIC users, installing a connectivity agent, to name just a few. This module is important for developers, though, as well, since you'll understand more about the issues associated with these tasks. And once you complete these videos, don't forget to take the Module 9 skill check. Keep going strong. All right, well, before we navigate over to provision the new instance, let's kind of revisit what kind of person you need to be in order to do the provisioning. Now, I'm logged in as this person called OIC admin in the default domain. But however, you need to be aware that that person needs to be in a group or associated with an IAM policy for Oracle integration that includes this resource type, integration instance, and you must have managed permissions, or at the very least, the integration instance create permission in order to do the provisioning. So let's assume that your OCI administrator has set you up for that, or maybe you're already an OCI administrator yourself. In that case, you don't need to worry about being assigned this policy. So Having logged in with the appropriate permissions for creating an instance, let's navigate there. From this menu, I go to Developer Services, then to Application Integration, and then underneath that is Integration. The next thing I need to be concerned about is which compartment I'm in. Now, we can't provision a new instance in the root compartment. That's not allowed. Nor can we do one in this managed compartment for paths. So any other available compartment that you want to do, you can. What I've done is set up a compartment that we can use. I've got some instances that are inactive. I have one that's in a failed state right now. And we're going to simply click on creating a new instance right here. Now, from this point, I just need to get a meaningful name, and I'll just call it Demo Instance. And then your very next option is to choose the edition. And we talked about this in other lessons, the difference between all the different features available in Enterprise versus Standard. Obviously, Standard is less expensive. I'll choose that one. The shape, if you can see, the default is Production, which gets its updates when there are new patches applied to Oracle Integration Cloud 2 weeks after the development. So since this is going to be a development environment that we're going to be testing things in, I'll choose that. And for most of you, it's going to be this license type. That is the default. This one is available for those that happen to have Oracle Fusion middleware licenses in their on-premise environments or other environments that they want to transfer over. This is pretty rare nowadays, so let's go with this one since that's the most common one. And then there's the number of message packs. Now, because this is a development environment, I'm just doing testing and development. 5,000 messages per hour is plenty enough. However, if this was a production environment, you could increase that to a larger number. In fact, with this kind of license, I can increase that all the way up to 12, which is 60,000 messages per hour. If I wanted to go more than that, I'll get like 13. I would get this warning to say, well, to set a higher value, we're going to have to do this provisioning using the OCI command line. Now, we're not going to get into that right here with message packs, but let's jump down here to advanced options. This is my opportunity to now switch out. If I was in a different domain and I wanted to switch to the correct domain where this needs to be provisioned, I can do that now for permissions purposes. I'm going to stay with my default domain. And then in this case, if I had chosen the wrong compartment, this is my opportunity now to switch over to the appropriate compartment. None of those have to change. This second one is for network access. By default, access can be had by anyone from anywhere. If I wish to restrict that, I can hit provisioning by either choosing a virtual cloud network or cloud network OSID, or for access, or I can define a CIDR block of IP addresses and then add additional blocks or additional virtual cloud networks as I see fit. I don't need to do that, so I'll deselect that and click Create. And it's as easy as that. I get a banner saying that the creation has started for the demo instance and that it is in a creating state. And we're just going to stay here and wait for the provisioning to be included. I'll pause and resume once it has. And as you can see, we are now in an active state. Our demo instance is provisioned. And when we click in to view that demo instance, we can see basic information on the information page, the edition, the version, the license type, the number of message packs. This is, by the way, where we would come in and enable additional features if we wanted to. Below is where we can see metrics. And as you'll learn later about setting up private endpoints or defining network access again. Remember, we could have done that during provisioning, but we could come in here and we could apply additional restrictions now if we wanted to, which we don't want to. The other thing we can do from here is we can now stop this instance since it's running and we're paying for that instance to run. And then, of course, I can also delete the instance if I needed to. That's it for this demo. Thank you. Okay, so I'll start out this demo by having logged into the OCI console. You can see I'm logged in as OIC admin. This is someone that's in the role that can manage OIC instances. And one of the things we'll do now is make sure we can manage additional users to access our demo instance. What we want is we want people to come in as developers or service administrators to access the service console. Now, for this demo, I've set up a couple of users, admin Jane and developer Bob. And when you kind of look at them, you can see that they're not assigned to any groups. There's Bob and there's Jane. And if either one of them try to log into that console right now, in fact, let's go ahead and do that. We'll get the URL of the console, open another window, and let's just try to log in as admin Jane. And what she gets is the fact that she can't access it at all. And the same thing is true for developer Bob. Now, let's go ahead and just demonstrate that real quick. Same thing. Now, right now, only one person can access the OIC instance, and that is our OIC administrator. When the OIC administrator tries to go in, they can get to the instance, and of course, they also are a service administrator. They can get to the settings page. For example, if they wanted to add a certificate to upload one, they could, of course. So let's log out of there. And now let's enable these two users to come in with those particular roles. In order to do that, what we need to do is navigate over into Identity and Access Domain. Let's open up a new tab to show you how that routing works. So under Identity and Security, then you go to Domains, then you go to the domain you're concerned is, in our case, default domain, and then we open up Oracle Cloud Services. Now, what we're looking for is the name of our instance. So if you'll recall, our instance is called Demo Instance. So I'm looking for that one. There it is, Demo Instance, Integration Cloud Service. And when I click in on there and I click to Application Roles, I can see all those roles that are available that I can now assign some people to. Right now, there's nobody assigned to the service monitor and so forth. Now, if you need to learn more about this yourself, don't forget the documentation under Provisioning and Administrating goes through a whole section on managing access and assign roles. Now, I'm demonstrating doing managing access in an identity domain, since that's the most common now. Very few people are going to have OCI domains that don't have identity domains. So that's what I'm going to be demonstrating here now. So let's go back over here, and we're going to see that right now there's only one administrator, and that is, of course, the OIC admin person. What we want to do is we want to add another one. Now, one way to do that is to simply look for all the users, and I could add admin Jane directly. I'm not going to do that because I want to do is show you a better best practice. So a better best practice, can't believe I said that way, is to go and create a couple of groups. So what I did is I created a OIC Demo Instance Service Admin group and a developers group. And right now there's nobody in that, but let's go ahead and add Jane to that group. Let's put her in, where's Jane here? Admin Jane, we're going to add her to that group. And then to the developer group, I'm going to put in developer Bob. And the reason I'm demonstrating this is rather than giving a person access to our permissions for these roles, the better practice is to define a group so you can now add additional people to the group. You don't have to do this manually each time. So under Service Developer, I'm going to manage under Groups. I'm going to now look for that new developers group, of which developer Bob is in, and assign that group. And notice it's been assigned the service developer role. Close that. And then let's go into the under Service Administrator, managing, in addition to the OIC admin user that was there by default, we're going to now add that service admins group that I just created here, where I added admin Jane. And now that's been added. All right, so with that done, now those two groups are added. We can now try to test to see if those two people can log in. And let's go ahead and do that now. So we need the URL for the service console. And let's first try admin Jane. There she is, and we'll try to sign her in. And now she can sign in. And does she have administrative rights? Sure. There's that settings link with all these pages to include the ability to go in and upload a new certificate and so forth. So let's log her out. And let's try the same test with developer Bob. And indeed, now Bob can come in, but if you'll notice, he's not an admin, he's only a developer. There's no settings page, but he can certainly go in and start creating integrations or anything else that he wants to do at this point. That completes the demo. Thanks for watching. Welcome. In this lesson, I'll walk you through the steps involved with installing and using an OIC connectivity agent. Let's start with the high-level workflow. First, you need to define an agent group for the OIC instance, which is easily done using the Oracle Integration Service Console. Next, from a host machine in your private network, you download the generic connectivity agent installer as well as the pre-configured installer profile configuration file for that agent group. Next, install Java Development Kit version 17, since the agent is a Java virtual machine process. Then install the agent by executing the agent jar file. Now, back in the OIC Service Console, any service developer can now create a connection to the private resource using the appropriate adapter, then selecting the connectivity agent group as the access option. And finally, the developer will use that connection as part of their integration design implementation. Now, our focus for this lesson will be these first three tasks, since these can only be accomplished by someone assigned to the OIC service admin role. Starting with the first one, creating an agent group. From the navigation pane, click Design, then select Agents. On the Agents page, click Create, which opens this pane. All you need here is a unique name for the group, as this identifier will be used later to associate the connectivity agent with one or more specific adapter connections. When you click Create, OIC automatically creates an OAuth client application in the Oracle Identity Cloud Service. Later, this will enable the installed connectivity agent associated with this group to use OAuth 2.0 token-based authentication when connecting to the Oracle integration environment. And that's it. After a couple of minutes, the group will be displayed in the configured state on the Agents page. Next, from the machine where you wish to host the new agent, you clicked to download the connectivity agent installer zip file. The host can be any supported Linux or Windows operating system. Then extract it to a directory that you've created for the agent files. Now, if you look at those extracted files, you'll see this installer profile configuration file, which is formatted but is missing all the required data values. So here's where you go to the Actions menu for the new agent group. then click to download the agent's config file so it can be replaced into the agent directory. Now, here's an example. The data values include the URL of your OIC instance, the agent group identifier, the IDCS URL, along with the OAuth2 token credentials that the agent will need to connect to OIC. Also, notice that if this agent is going to be used with a proxy in the on-premises environment, you'll need to edit these proxy parameters as appropriate. Prior to running the agent installer, if the agent is to be used with an SSL proxy, or if it will need access to secure application endpoints, you'll need to import a digital identity certificate into this directory using the KeyTool utility. If the agent will need access to any third-party applications, such as a MySQL database or IBM MQ Series JMS, any required client jar files will need to be copied to this directory. And as I mentioned earlier, the agent runs as a Java virtual machine process, and the current required JDK is version 17. Finally, once installed, set the Java Home environment variable to the JDK installation location and update the path environment to include that bin directory. Now it's time to execute the agent jar as a Java process. Now here's an example of what happens in Windows when running in the foreground. It normally takes less than 30 seconds for the agent to be up and running, registered, connected, and then polling the OIC instance, ready to process all design time and runtime requests. Now to run it in the background, which is the typical approach for production environments, you'll need to use a Linux host and use NoUp as shown here. The connectivity agent cannot be run in the background as a service in Windows. After you've started the agent, you can inspect several files. The agent's configuration file contains information about connecting to OIC and the agent's infrastructure, and the logger configuration file allows you to configure logging severity levels and limits. And located in the logs subdirectory are several agent diagnostic log files you can examine when you need to troubleshoot connectivity issues. As to monitoring in the console, when you return to refresh the agent's page, you'll see that the group now has one agent connected. However, from the navigation menu, go to Observability, then Agents, where you'll see more information such as agent details and its current status. And of course, if there is only one agent in the group and it becomes disconnected, the status for the group will show as unavailable. Since the agent runs as a daemon, to restart, you must first stop the agent process using Control-C, or if running in the background, just kill the process. By the way, the current process ID is stored in this PID text file. Since the agent monitoring framework waits for 45 seconds before marking the agent status as being down, you'll get an error message if you try to start it again too soon. As you can see, a restart should take no more than about 15 seconds. Finally, a quick note for integration developers. Now that the agent is running, when defining the connection resource in the OIC console, choose Connectivity Agent as the access type option, then select to use the appropriate agent group. When testing the connection, OIC will attempt to access that resource by queuing a design time message for the associated connectivity agent to see if it can connect to the resource. If so, the test is successful. So to review and wrap up, once you have defined an agent group, you select a machine within the private network to host the downloaded agent installer and group's config file, then execute the agent. That's it for this lesson. Thanks for watching. Welcome. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to set up and install an OIC connectivity agent. But first, a disclaimer. Since many of the activities demonstrated in this demo require a user who has been assigned to the OIC service admin role, this is not a demo that you can try to replicate in your assigned hands-on lab environment. Those environments are designed for you to work in the service developer role only. If you wish to expand your learning as an administrator beyond just watching this demo, you'll need to have access to an OCI tenancy with a provisioned OIC instance, along with the appropriate identity and access management policies, and of course, assigned to the service admin role. The agenda for this demo will include downloading and copying the installer onto an OCI compute virtual machine, creating a new agent group in the OIC console, and then copying the installer profile configuration file over to the VM, preparing the compute instance environment to run the installer, then start up the connectivity agent, demonstrate monitoring of the agent group in the OIC console, as well as how to restart the agent as a background process. And finally, to demonstrate cleanup tasks, I'll show how the agent can later on be removed and how to delete the agent group when you no longer need it. Let's get started. For this demo, as you can see, I've already provisioned an OCI virtual machine. As you can see, I just simply chose an ARM processor with 16 gigabytes of memory. Technically 8 gigabytes is the minimum required, but I went ahead and did 16. And I'm going to make note of my public IP address so I can SSH to that VM. Okay, now that I've connected to it, first thing I want to do is go ahead and make a new directory. I'll call it Agent 1, and we'll transition over to that directory. You can see there's nothing in there right now. So over in my OIC console, we'll navigate to Design and then Agents. First thing I need to do is download the agent itself to a local directory on my PC. So let me use Windows PowerShell, and I'll execute a secure copy command using obviously the private key of that virtual machine for authentication, and then take that zip file and send it over to my virtual machine. Okay, now that that's copied over, let's verify that over in my SSH session. And there's the file. The next thing I need to do is unzip the file. And if I take a look inside, in addition to the connectivity jar file, there's this installer profile configuration file, which is at this point only a template. If we take a look at it, we can see that there's no information. Now, rather than having to edit this ourselves, what we can do, and what is recommended we do, is we create our agent group, which I'll do now. I'll call it Demo App Integration Training. And what's important here is the identifier, demo, well, it's all in caps. Notice that will be used later when the agent needs to connect to OIC. I'll add in a little brief description and click Create. Now the group is created correctly. Notice there's still no agents, but we're going to get ready to set up our agent by first downloading this actual config file. I'll save it. And let's now take a look at that installer profile config file. I open it up here in Visual Studio Code, and you'll notice in addition to the URL, then what's important is that agent group identifier, which is going to be needed. So we need now to upload this, copy this over to our virtual machine. Once again, I'll use a secure copy command to send this file over to the Agent1 folder. And let's go ahead and take a look now at that installer profile config file to ensure that it is indeed the one we expect. Sure enough. So before we run the installer, we need to make sure we have the right version of Java. The default one here is not going to work for us because it's not Java 17. Again, I'm also showing that I don't have a Java home environment variable set yet either. So what needs to happen in the real world is, since I've already done this, is you need to install Java 17. I've already done that, but this is the command you would use to do that. So since I've already done that, let's fast forward to once you have installed it, you need to export a new Java home. I had to happen to navigate to find out where that location is. I'll echo that variable to make sure it's the right location. And then the other thing you need to do is add that Java home to your path. And I'll echo the path to ensure that location is there first, that bin directory. So this connectivity agent.jar is what needs to get executed. So we'll run that command, and you can see how long it's actually going to take. Just a few seconds, making a call to OIC, making some checks, looking for that agent group. And that's it. Once it says now available for new messages, the agent's running. Let's go verify that now. I'll refresh this page. We can see now there's one agent here, and with information about those agent details. And if I click on agents, I can see again the one in the group, and it's in an active status. The other place to navigate to for observability, if you go over there and down to agents, you can now see the status of each of the groups. Right now my newest group is here. And I can expand to see the agent itself to look at its status information as well. Now in the real world, we don't want to be running this in the foreground, so we need to kill the agent that's running so we can restart it in the background. So I'm going to navigate over to opening up another shell, and notice there's a PID file for the process identifier, and I can make note of what that is. In this case, 89732. So I need to sudo as root, and if I didn't have that process identifier and this was the only thing running on this virtual machine, I could use this command to find out what that ID is. In this case, I already have another agent that's running, so if I didn't know any better, I wouldn't know which one. That's why you look at that process ID file. In this case, I'm going to kill that process 89732. Next, we can navigate back over into the OIC console. And if I take a look, and it says it's still available, but it takes a little bit of time for it to give up on the agent, normally between 45 to 50 seconds. And as I refresh the page, indeed, there it is, showing as unavailable. And if I navigate back over to the design page for the agents, it too shows while there's still an agent configured. If I click in here under agents, I can see indeed it's unavailable from here. So let's start this agent back up. This time we'll start it up in the background. And there it is running in the background. And again, if I look at the process ID file, it will update to what the current process ID is. And let's go back into the OIC console. And once again, if I expand out onto agents, I can see that that agent is active. As a reminder, back over into the observability at a higher level, I can see the status once again of not just my agent, but all the agents right here. The next use case to consider is to delete the agent group. I'm going to make a note of the process ID one more time. Once again, sudo as a root user. before we can delete the agent, we need to, and delete the agent group, we need to kill the process itself. Next, we can go back into our OIC console. Let me refresh the page to indeed verify that the agent is unavailable. Go back into our design page for our agents. Find our group. Now, we can't just kill the agent group just yet because we still have an agent identified. So first thing I do is remove the agent. And now that that's removed, we're down to 0. I can now delete the agent group. And that's it. And that wraps up this demo. Thanks for watching. Okay, before I start the demo, I thought I'd draw your attention to the documentation under Section 5, Manage Oracle Integration 3 Instances. There's a section called Restrict Access to an Instance, and this is what I'm going to be demonstrating for you here in just a moment. We can base that restriction on a virtual cloud network or on a CIDR block of a bunch of IP addresses, or even a single IP address. And it's pretty straightforward. If it's allowed virtual cloud network, that access through that service gateway is allowed to the Oracle integration instance. From the public internet, if it's a single IP address or a list of IP addresses, those will be allowed. Of course, any other IP address that's not on the allow list from the public internet, or even from another virtual cloud network that's not on the allow list, will not be allowed in. So that's what I'm going to be demonstrating for you now. Let's do just a quick demonstration that I can, that it's wide open right now. So if we go into our instance and we click on the service console URL, and I'll copy that. I'll go ahead and open up another window, paste that in, and we can see that indeed I get prompted for logging in and I can access the instance. The reason why this is, if you go down under here to network access, you can see that the default is in place. No restrictions are applied. Again, what we're going to do here in our demonstration is to now restrict network access. When we're setting up the protocol, you have essentially 3 choices. Just accessing the file server, and again, the file server access is going to be based on CIDR blocks only, or it could just be access to the OIC instance itself, the REST APIs, integration instances. In that case, I can either do a CIDR block or a virtual cloud network. So for this demonstration, let's go ahead and restrict access to a virtual cloud network. I have one here in my compartment, but you don't have to be restricted to just your compartment. I could add another rule for another virtual cloud network. And I know there's one over here in this compartment. There we go. And so forth. And notice as I add more of these, let me add another virtual cloud network over in another compartment. There we go. And if you'll notice, I can, on each of these, I could restrict further a subset of IP addresses by defining a CIDR block for each of those if I wanted to. For now, let's just restrict it to those 2 VCNs. I'll save those changes. And this will take about a minute or 2 to update. I'll pause once it's been completed and resume. Okay, it's now updated and my instance is active again. Let's go ahead and take now a look at those 2 VCNs that are allowed, but everything else is restricted. Oh, by the way, and I guess while I'm here, I just need to point out, if I go into edit again, it's going to give you a warning saying, well, look, there are no settings for the file server. Right now, nobody can access it. Well, we understand that, so we're going to ignore that for now. Also want to talk about this enabling loop back option. If you don't check that, then integrations won't be able to call each other unless they use a local integration call. There are some use cases, so I'm going to go ahead and enable it. There are some use cases where an integration, for example, needs to call a REST API, an Oracle integration REST API, and that is done through a REST connection. So just be aware of that as well. So let's go ahead and cancel out of this for just a moment so I can demonstrate the fact that indeed everything is restricted. I'll go ahead and open another browser window here, and we'll paste in that URL. No, that's my IP address. Let's paste in this Service Console URL. And we can see that because it's coming from my IP address and not from either of those VCNs, that access is denied. All right, so what we're going to do in the second part of this demo is now enable that access. So I'll click Edit again. I'm going to ignore that one more time on the file server, but we're going to solve that right now. We're going to add another rule. And this time I'll make it for both the OIC console in integration as well as the file server. And to find my IP address, I just use what'smyip.org, so I know what IP address I'm using. And I'll paste that in, and as a CIDR block, put /32, and I can now save those changes. And again, this will take a couple minutes. I'll pause and then resume when it's done. Okay, and the updating is completed. The instance is active again. Again, let's look at our network access list now, and we can see in addition to those two virtual cloud networks, I've added my specific IP address to allow. And so now to do a test to see if that IP address can access it, again, I'm checking, refreshing. Indeed, that is my IP address. I will go back and grab the Service Console URL, open up another window, and indeed we are able to access and attempt to log in. I'll just go ahead and log in as OIC admin to validate that I can not only access the integration, but I can log in as well. And that completes the demo. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to this short video on OIC monitoring. So without further ado, let's begin. Here we are in the OIC homepage. Let's go and execute an integration. I'm going to take this integration here. And before we actually run it, let's deactivate it and reactivate it to see exactly what we can do in respect of tracing. So you see the three trace levels we have available now. Production, where all activities are logged without payloads, and this data is kept for 32 days. Audit, the additional wire payloads, the ins and outs, so to speak, of your integration, they're also logged with audit. Data is kept for 8 days. And then with debug, okay, it's not recommended for production, but for development and test, it's very interesting. Everything is logged, and this has a life span of 24 hours. So let's activate that guy with debug. Now we can go in and test it. And as you can see, you can click run. And first of all, let's then look at OIC observability. So we'll come back to that integration in a moment. So we come into OIC observability, and what we see, first of all, is the integration dashboards, giving us salient information about what's happening with our OIC instance here. As you say, you can various timeframes available here for the instance status, what the trace level was, the status of those jobs, etc., etc., the overall error rate, etc., etc. Then let's go back to the past 24 hours, and we see, okay, higher error rate for this one here. We see connections with errors. Now, this is very important because you're probably not interested in all of those integrations that run successfully, but those with errors are very interesting. And of course, the errors can also lie with the downstream systems that OIC is invoking. So this is very, very useful here. Here we have at integration level. Now let's look at our friend there. This is our the integration we just ran. It invoked this integration, which in turn invoked that one, and that one invoked this one here. Now we can change the time frame here to make the data a bit more interesting. And let's do the last 32 days, apply that. And here we see overall stats for those particular integration flows for the period of the last 32 days. Received, processed, succeeded, aborted, etc. Now, over here, let's go for our friend here. We see the processing time. So this is a very interesting set of statistics that we have here. We have minimum, maximum, average, standard, deviation, etc. Then the percentiles are available to us here, P95, P99, etc. So this is extremely interesting for us. We get an overview, an aggregated overview of the performance of this particular integration over a period of time that we can decide whether it's over the last 24 hours, the last 32 days, etc. Also interesting to note here is, last hour, the status here of the integration, the style. Are we only interested in our application-driven integrations, or the scheduled jobs, or the event-driven integrations, etc.? Okay, so that's very interesting there. Subscriptions here refer to integrations that are subscribing to events. So OIC introduced events to OIC 3 a couple of releases ago, and this is just giving us from an observability perspective, an overview of those subscriptions. So which integrations or subscribers subscribe to which events, how many events have not yet been retrieved, and the actual status of that subscriber. Agents here refers to the connectivity agents. So you can see exactly the status of your connectivity agents. And as you can see here, for me, this agent group is unavailable, but has no agent. This agent group here has one availability agent. However, that is not that's not up and running at the moment. When we go down to instances, we're looking at the individual instance flows. So let's go back here for the last hour, and we see that integration that we just started there. Now, of course, within here, you see the trace level is equal to debug. I can see the payload. I can download the payload. I can download the whole activity stream file as well. But you get a blow-by-blow account of how that integration executed. And we see we've only got the happy path here. But you can see exactly every step of the way in respect of the payload, what's happening there, etc., etc. Now, future runs. Future runs refer to jobs, scheduled jobs. So if we have scheduled jobs, we will see exactly how they are scheduled. So let's go in and actually schedule a job to see how that works. So here I have a scheduled job, and I'm just going to start this schedule here. All I need now to do is activate that integration. We can revisit the schedule here. Start that integration now. Okay, so we have this job scheduled. So let's go back to our observability, go back to future runs. And you will see here, let's look at this at a monthly basis. Now, because of the recording, you may not be able to see these very well, but you can see here, I've got the different runs on the different dates that I have available to me here now. Now, of course, this is very useful if I've got multiple scheduled jobs and I want an overview of when they are executing, and to ensure that I don't have too many jobs executing at the one time. You can use this to actually just check on such. B2B tracking is for B2B business events, of which I have none in this section here. But you can well imagine if I am doing B2B document exchange with my trading partners, this is very useful to see, okay, which business messages am I receiving and which wire messages. So the wire messages is kind of the raw message that you receive. The business message is the salient business message in there. With Fusion applications, we have the ability here to monitor or see which integrations are subscribing to Fusion business events. Now, as you know, within Fusion ERP, I think there are over 170 business events. Business events such as new purchase order created and so on. So here we just get an overview of which of our integrations are actually using that, or which connections are being used for that. So all in all, very, very powerful observability features within OIC itself. Now, we don't just have observability within OIC. OIC can push its log files onto OCI logging, and from there on to OCI logging analytics. And that's what we'll be looking at in the next video. Thank you very much. Welcome to this short video on OIC observability.